How's it going, folks? I'm Matt, this is Fullerton, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Bean. Today, we have the man Joint. He's here to talk to us about the craft, about how he does his breeding and selects his beans and goes about and does all the wonderful things. He comes highly recommended from one of the Gromies. Dude, happy to have you here on the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Took us a little bit of back and forth to get this line up. The joys of family life, am I right? So,
Yep.
oh, pardon me.
I'm happy we made it happen, though.
Yes, and I'm stoked to have you here. Like I said, you come highly regarded, and most folks who end up on the show do because somebody's taken your gear, grown it out, and been really pleased with it. And that's what I want to chat with you about today. You know, how you got to be where you're at and whatnot, how you're doing the breeding, what you consider your favorite stuff that you work on. But before we get into that, tell me about yourself, a little bit where you're coming from, and a little bit about your grow style.
So I am 36 years old, and I'm from Las Vegas, born and
Nice.
raised. And I've been growing for almost 15 years now and doing breeding for 13 years, just about 13 years. And my style is just pretty much living organics. It's the only way I've ever grown. I tried growing with like regular nutrients my first couple of years, but I had no success in the beginning with that. So I back then there wasn't Instagram and things like that. So you had to really delve into like blogs and things like that. And then I came across organic farming and it just kind of spiraled from there.
I feel that. I feel that. So you come
Yeah.
from Las Vegas. It's got to be a challenging environment to grow in. Is there anything in particular that you're doing with your space, with your gear, that helps you survive in that desert heat?
So yeah, man, I truly believe that's, a big portion of why my stuff is so good, and strong, because I do all my breeding in my garage and it's basically like outdoor weather in here. Um, I intentionally keep the environment kind of out of whack when I'm breeding just to stress the plants out and weed out the sensitive and weak ones. But yeah, it's a struggle, dude. But it gets really hot out here and it's very dry, and it can be a struggle. But I think that is what has separated me from the flock, in terms of breeding, because it has made my genetics very, very resilient and strong. And over time and generations of breeding over and over in the same conditions, the heat, the drought, it just, like I said, it's just made them very strong.
That's really cool, man. I know some other breeders who do that sort of thing too, taking the approach that it's okay if it can survive and do well in good conditions, but if it can do well in really poor conditions, then you're onto something.
Yeah.
So you've been at the game for 15 years and started about 13 years ago the breeding. What was the catalyst that made that happen? Made you say, I got to make my own beans?
So back then, you couldn't find seeds anywhere, especially locally. I don't know how long you've been in the game growing and whatnot, but back then you had to basically take a risk, take a chance, order them online from somewhere overseas.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'd show up, sometimes they wouldn't. And if they did show up, it'd take like, 6 months back then. So
Just a
anyway,
crapshoot,
um,
yeah.
yeah. So, and you weren't 100% on what you were getting either. You didn't know if it was exactly what it was promised or what you paid for, you know what I mean? And then a lot of
I don't know
times,
if that's changed though. That's the thing, right?
yeah, yeah, it's unfortunate, but
Yeah.
that still is a thing today. um, but so when I would order them and grow them out, they also would herm and have issues and things like that. And back then, I was so green and new to it, I didn't understand what I was doing wrong and why I would end up with seeds and my crop would get lost. And then I was scouring the internet trying to find any information that I could. And finally I came across some breeding stuff and I was like, okay, let me start making my own seeds. And then it just kind of took off from there.
And that's, the next question. Tell me about the process. You get a pack of beans or something new that you want to work with. How do you go through and select the female that you want, and select the male that you want?
So, um, so I'll pop as many seeds as I can of that particular line. I'm a firm believer in popping as many as you can, even if
Yep.
you have a little bit of space. Because popping as many as you can, you're gonna see all the good stuff, the bad stuff, the mediocre, etc. And so I start that way, and from there so when I first grow them from seed, I don't typically try to stress the hell out of them. I just want to see how they grow on their own to
Yep.
see if the line has any potential whatsoever. So I'll try to keep the environment on point and stuff like that, just straight from seed. And then if I find anything in particular that seems worth keeping, then that's when I will back it up as clone and then run it back, 2, 3 times, sometimes even more. Um,
So you're
that's
you're working the plant over considerably before you even start thinking about crossing it.
yeah,
Oh, I like that.
yeah, that's very, very important to me to do that. People are spending their hard-earned money on the seeds and stuff, and I feel like it's only right out of respect to make sure these people don't end up with a shitty crop or
Yeah,
a bad crop. So from there, then I start getting into all of my checklists and my breeding criteria. If I find something good, once I run it back from the clone, then I have a little list here that I usually look out for. Now, I can't always check every single box, but I try to check as many of these boxes as I can before I consider it good to go to work with. So, vegetative vigor, plant formation, root development, node spacing, leaf formation, cloning ability, resistance to insects and pathogens, height, width, nutrient uptake, flower to leaf ratio, finished flower density, finished flower structure, aesthetics, flavor, trimming difficulty, yield, potency, uniformity, and stability. So those are
wow.
like my main check my main things that I look for in my
I
checklist.
dig that, man. That's fantastic. That's a real good list to work through. The one that got me was the pest resistance, right? Because nobody wants pests in their gardens. So how
Mm-mm.
is that like one of the boxes you kind of rarely check off, or talk about
No,
that?
that so I'll go over the main ones for me. So the main ones that have to be checked off is like straight out the gate has to be strong, resilient, hardy, and robust to even just survive in my environment. And a lot of new growers, they make mistakes and stuff, and I don't want a mistake to knock out somebody's entire crop. So that's number one usually for me. Then the second thing is like flavor, unique flavors and terps. That is a big thing for me. I'm always looking for the unique flavors and trying to
Absolutely.
create new things. Sorry, I couldn't hear myself right there.
Yeah, no, no, all
um,
good.
and then the third thing that I look for is the effect too. I forgot to put that on this list when I was typing it up before the show. The effect is also huge. I want to make sure it's good medicine. I don't want it to be mediocre. I want it to knock people's socks off. You know, um, and then the insect and pathogens resistance. That's like number 4 or 5 on the list. There's been times where I thought I had a good plant and then I run it back from clone and all of a sudden there's thrips all over it. So I just cut it right out. I don't care how good the flower was,
Yeah,
it goes away
it's a
immediately.
curse word around here, man. I hate thrips.
Yeah. I
uh,
don't have issues with too many insects,
mhm.
surprisingly, being an organic grower. I've pretty much got like my watering and stuff dialed in to limit that. But it is an issue sometimes. Some plants just attract pests, whether it's like the smell they're giving off or just sensitive plant, whatever. Some plants they just attract pests no matter what. So that happened to me a couple grows ago when I was working on another breed. I had a plant that had all sorts of thrips all over it, so I just culled it halfway through flower.
Yeah.
But
And sometimes you got to make that decision too. And on my list of questions I hear, how do you feel about culling plants? I know a lot of breeders have said things like, well, you got to be used to this. Like you're only selecting the best, right? Is that your approach then?
yes,
Yeah, just
so
kill them.
yeah, I'll get rid of them right away if I feel the need to. It's an important part of breeding and something that you got to get used to over time. Once you learn once you figure out what you're doing. I know there's a lot of controversy per se, or people out there that say you got to grow every plant to the end. It could be great flower, blah blah blah. But if the flower is great, but it's a very sensitive plant that can't handle just regular growing, then it doesn't need to be bred with.
Yeah, I mean that's how you build strong lines and make them, the best that they can be over time. To that question, then, what would you
Yeah.
consider to be your signature strain, the best of the best?
So my joints blueberry, I've been working on that for like going on 9 years now. That's one of the ones I'm known for. That's probably one of my best. It has those super old school blueberry terps from like the early 2000s, late 90s that everybody's always searching for. And it's very strong and grows really well and holds up uh, in pretty much any environment. And also, one of my more recent strains is the blueberry orange juice. I don't
Hmm.
know if you've heard anything about that, but
I
that's
saw some
probably
posts on Insta. Yeah,
one of my most recent signature strains. Um, it smells just like the name. Most phenos smell like orange juice and with a mix of blueberry. Matter of
that'd
fact,
be
my
awesome.
cut,
Yeah,
yeah, it's super unique, and that's why I like it so much. My breeder's cut that I have that I found after going through like 200 seeds over the span of a few years. It legit smells like fresh squeezed orange juice mixed with blueberry maple syrup. It's the craziest thing.
that sounds delicious. Yeah, I've got a
Yeah,
blueberry
man.
muffin one from Humboldt that are on this like really heavy blueberries, but that orange on top, wow, that would be
Yeah.
nice.
And
So,
then,
go ahead.
I was just going to say sometimes with that line, the orange can be a little overpowering, but once it cures, that mellows out and the blueberry really pops. So,
Beautiful,
yeah.
beautiful. So then, sort of flip that around. What's the white whale? What are you hunting for?
So, right now, I'm kind of just searching out all the flavors that I could possibly find. And I'm like going down a list of flavors, trying to add to my repertoire so that I have something for everybody. You know what I mean? So, like, currently I have blueberry, I have orange, lemon, citrus, I've got gas, I've got uh, lime. More recently, I've got lime. And then I've got, like the earthy, musky, skunky stuff. So right now I'm searching for cherry.
Yeah,
And I pretty much have found it recently through one of my strains called PB and Cray. um, but it was unexpected because the parents from that lineage don't have any cherry terps, but it was
right.
like the combination from the parents created it because I could distinctively smell the difference between the two. Like I can distinctively smell these terps from the dad and distinctively smell these terps from the mom. And then that combination, you get what I'm saying? Like I could
Yeah,
smell it, makes it up. It's the craziest thing. It's so cool.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I've got a cut like that too. Actually, a friend of mine, she found a bag seed and something that I gave her. So apple cup that I run, it likes to throw a little pollen every once in a while, and it threw some on an OG Kush, very special cut. We call it the Krabby Kush. A buddy of mine, he bred it out, and this stuff is just rank. It's just fantastic. But it's so funny because it's like it's got half the terps from the one and half the terps from the other smashed together, and it's fantastic. But
Yeah.
it's so weird how it's so equal.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that that happens. So
Yeah.
let's talk about a little something different now. Let's talk about the community. Anybody you
Okay.
following? Anybody that you're hyped about? Somebody that we should be looking into.
So to be 100% honest with you, I'm I'm not really paying very much attention these days to
Fair, yeah.
everybody.
A
There
lot
are
going on.
that, and I'm just focused on myself and my work usually. But there is a few people. There's a guy named Alabrihe Genetics. He doesn't do photos, but he does autoflowers.
Hmm.
That's not my department, but he's like up and coming, and he's a legit breeder. He seems like he's really good, and he's a friend of mine.
Very
So shout
cool.
out to him.
Yeah. We'll get
And
if he's got an Insta, we'll throw it down below there. So
yeah, and another one of my buddies that gave me the lime terps recently. He shared his cactus breath with me, which is full of crazy lime terps. His name is
nice.
Dabs for Dads on Instagram. He's a really, really good breeder too.
Sweet, sweet. And link below as well. Yeah, check those
Yeah.
guys out. So then, conversely, again on that, any big name guys, anybody out there that you've seen their gear, you've tried their stuff out that you love to run a collab or a project with?
So I think that the two people that I'd actually really want to collaborate and work with would be Mr. Toad from Filial Feel. Do you know who that is?
I can't say I'm familiar. No.
He is, I forgot the name of the YouTube channel. He's on that YouTube channel where they're always it's like kind of like a podcast, and they're always talking about breeders. It's a guy with the glasses, and he's in a wheelchair. He had an accident.
Wheelchair.
He's in a wheelchair.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
no,
and he's
I can't
just
say I'm familiar.
let me
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll get a link thrown down below. Lots of links below, folks.
yeah, I
So
can't believe I can't remember the name of it right now.
that's how you'll wake up at 3 in the morning. And go, wait a minute. So that's
Yeah,
usually how
if
it
I
happens.
remember it, I'll spit it out here.
All
But
right.
yeah, he's a really he's an old school grower. He's been breeding for many, many, many years. He's really good. I've grown his gear. He does things right. He's not about hype or anything like that. He's legit. He'd be somebody I'd love to work with for sure, because I think I could learn a lot from him. And then my my other person would have to be Capulator, Mr. Mac one, or Mr.
Yeah,
Mac.
yeah.
I
He
think
does some
he's
amazing work.
yeah. Those are the two guys I'm always paying attention to.
Oh, fantastic. Well, if they happen to be watching, reach out.
Yeah, reach out, guys.
Back in the grow room. Genetic mutations. I mean, you're popping a couple hundred beans with this, or working a bunch of stuff. What's the strangest you've come across? Anything you've had to do to really work with it, or anything really weird?
Well, I've come across a lot of like mutated plants, but I usually just throw them out.
Yeah,
So
that's that culling thing. It's just
honestly,
not
yeah,
chucking,
yeah.
right?
Like I've grown a few out, but usually they don't tend to do very well. So I just chuck them,
Yeah,
to
not
be
looking to find
honest.
the next freak show. I just hell with it. Let's get something
Yeah.
strong, something vigorous.
But I've seen like leaves, like the like duck web leaves, and the mutated flower. I know there's a word for it, but I can't think of it off the top
Like
of my
the
head.
fasciation.
Fasciation. Yeah,
Whatever how you
yeah.
say it. Yeah, yeah,
I've had a few of those, and yeah, quite a few of the mutants, but I tend to just chuck them.
yeah. So when you're
They're really
growing up,
cool though.
oh,
Sorry, they're really
always fun
cool
to
to
see new
check
things.
out.
Yeah.
I'm always interested in seeing what all the plants do. It's always like, whoa, that's cool, but that's not cool for breeding.
So anytime you're looking to start a new project out, of course, I think there's always going to be some sort of expectation in mind. Can you talk about a time when something just absolutely exceeded expectations, or the opposite, where it sort of fell off the rails and didn't really end up where you wanted it to be?
So I'd have to say more recently, the blueberry orange juice exceeded all my expectations,
Yeah, it's,
you know? Yeah. So like my breeder cut that I have, it's called the blueberry orange juice number 4. Um, that thing is like herm proof, like no matter what I do to it. And part of my testing, like I'll leave the grow room door wide open at night. I'll let light bleed in there, tents, I'll let light bleed in there and all that, to see if anything throws, balls or anything. And if it does and it can't handle it, it's out. That's one thing that exceeded my expectations with this particular clone. And the whole line is just really, really strong. And like I said, the flavors are so unique and the medicine is so good. It's like a just a natural antidepressant. It's very uplifting with a bit of a mellow body buzz. It's like a depression killer, dude.
that
And I
sounds
struggle with depression.
fantastic.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's helped change my life.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, let's touch on that for a minute. I think one of the things I've really learned and come to understand through a ton of interviews that I've done is a lot of people find this plant because it helps them. They don't maybe even know that this is what they're looking for, but that's ultimately, I think, what a lot of people do find. And to that point, is there anything in your strains, your repertoire that you think is really beneficial on the medical side of things?
yeah, and I should have mentioned that. That's another thing that I look for when I say effects.
Right.
It's not necessarily to get super stoned, but it's to help you or help people medically. I'm always conscious and aware when I'm smoking new stuff. Like, how is this affecting me? How do I feel? Am I getting good sleep? Do I feel depressed? Et cetera, et cetera. I think that's a big deal. And like you said, people don't even know they're searching for it. But once you find something that helps you like that, it's a
Right.
game changer.
It's
You know
so
what I
much
mean?
so. Yeah, yeah.
So, like with the blueberry orange juice, um, part of the parental lineage on that is Putang from Mass Medical. I don't
Yep.
know if so.
I've grown out some of it. Well, one of their crosses that they did with in-house there.
Yeah, Mass Medical and I are pretty good friends, and he told me I could work with his putang and stuff because when I grew it out, that is also a depression killer. So that's where that stems from in my blueberry orange juice. That's where the orange terps come from too, is
Okay.
that putang, because that putang is like a tangy lineage, right?
Yep.
So um, I used that to make another cross called Cushion OJ, and then the Cushion OJ was the mom of the blueberry orange juice. So, and then that uplifting depression killer just followed suit. That was passed down. That nice uplifting. It's so hard to describe, man, especially for people that don't understand like being depressed sometimes.
Yeah,
I'm not
I've
trying to
run
make
some of
this
those
about
ones that.
depression.
Oh yeah, but no, it's that euphoric high, that really uplifting, just takes you out
Yeah.
of the gloominess and stuff. It's not like a couch lock or anything; just it elevates you.
Yeah, yeah. So, like I was born with like a chemical imbalance, right? So it's like when I get depressed, it's not because I'm sad about anything. It's just like an imbalance going on
Hmm.
in my brain, that just gives me like no energy, no personality. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, you're
this
just
is
feeling
a
flat.
yeah. But this blueberry orange juice and the Cushion OJ mom that I used completely eliminates that. So that's a big deal. There's
Yeah,
a lot of people out there that suffer from depression and similar thing. Anxiety and depression go hand in hand, and that helps cure both. So it's pretty awesome.
very cool, very cool. I wanted to talk about male plants for a minute here. If you're, specifically hunting a male as opposed to doing sort of reversal or something like that, what are you looking for? And are you one of those type of people who will actually run that male right to the end?
So yeah, man. The first of all, I don't do feminized seeds. I only work with regular photo periods. Thank
This
you.
is the way, man.
Thank you.
Team regs here. I'll grow Fems. I don't have a problem with Fems. I prefer regs for multitude of reasons.
Well, yeah, I mean they're stronger, typically stronger, and grow. They have more vigor, and yeah. Anyway, so I it's like a big part of my breeding is the male hunting. Like that's my favorite thing to do is hunt males.
Cool.
Um, yeah, and yes, I will take them all the way to the end. Like that's one of the number one things in male selection. You have to take it all the way to the end. You can't just collect the pollen and then chuck it because you're only going through the first like 3 weeks of flower. After you collect the pollen, that plant is still going to show some characteristics, good, bad. It could still herm, it could still do whatever, you know. So it's very important to take it to the very end. But for the male plants, I never. Another thing is I never use frosty males that have trichomes. Never.
Oh, okay. Speak to that.
So I know there's probably a lot of controversy on this, and a lot of people think it's okay, but there's there's a fine line, right, between using a male that's covered in trichomes and just using a regular male, because the male that's covered in trichomes is expressing female characteristics, which will overlap into hermaphrodite herms, more
Interesting.
so than not.
Yeah.
You can use a frosty male. My friend Mass Medical, he likes frosty males, and he's really good at breeding. But I think why even introduce that? You know what I mean? Why take the risk when you don't have to? And the way I look at it too is like, if you think about like the animal kingdom, right? Animals, female animals are looking to mate with like the most dominant, manliest male, right?
Okay.
So I try to incorporate that with the plants too. You know what I mean? You don't want
Yeah,
to.
yeah. It's an interesting thought. There's a lack of machismo kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's when I'm looking for a male, I'm looking for like the manliest male in plant terms that you can find. You know what I mean? Thick stalks, thick branching, things like that.
Yeah. Somebody comes up to you, they're just getting into breeding. Well, what kind
Mm-hmm.
of advice would you offer them?
So the first thing I would say is you got to make sure you do it right and grow all the seeds that you make. That's like the number one thing, because that's all people do now is they just make a bunch of seeds, charge an extravagant price, and then sell them, and they don't ever grow them. They don't even know what their seeds look like when they're grown. Anybody that buys seeds for me, I can tell them, like if they buy 4 packs of seeds for me and they grow them all at the same time, and then they show me a picture of them, I can pick out each strain by the way they look because of how much I've grown all my seeds, right? And a lot of my friends that buy my packs, they always try and test me and do that. But
That's cool.
that's probably the number one thing. And um, just don't give up and make sure you do it right and grow your own stuff, before you release it out.
Absolutely.
Because breeding can be tough too. So
It's a long game. I mean, it's not just smash two plants together. I mean, the amount of testing that you talk about doing, stressing, having other people run it, running out of their environments, that sort of thing. There's so much work, and of course, that work should come with a price. So I think you touched on, the really expensive packs. Well, what do you feel is fair for a pack of beans?
so like for myself, I personally charge $70 a pack plus $10 shipping, but I also give you 15 seeds per pack, and then you also get a 10 seed gift pack with every order. Not with every pack, but with every order. So you're
Right,
getting,
right.
if you buy 1 pack, you're going to get 25 seeds for $80 with the shipping. That's what I feel like. That's super
Yeah.
fair.
So anybody who's watching, okay, and you see that $350 pack of beans of F1s, it's very likely barely been grown by a bunch of people. Take a look at everything that we've been talking about here for the last 30 plus minutes. You know, the amount of work that goes in, the amount of testing that he's doing, the everything that goes on, and then look at that price and tell me that you're not getting a fucking great deal.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah, man,
Yeah, and
that's
plus
stellar.
those F1s you just talked about that are 350 a pack were probably created with some feminized cut that they got at a nursery that is probably crap.
Yeah.
It's just the name. It's the name that people care about,
Right, and it's like the hype strain and people locking in on I've got the next big hype thing, the white truffle cat
Yeah.
at $10,000. I just
Yeah.
there's a lot going on
We
up
can
there.
go we could talk about that for hours. But
Oh, we
yeah,
could.
I'm
Where
not
do we go? Yeah, yeah.
I don't care about hype, none of that. I just find what I like and try to find these flavors I'm looking for and try to bring it to market. And that, I like I want to make sure that my name of my strain matches what it is called and the pictures match the seeds that people grow. Like when people see the pictures on my website, they grow the seeds. Those plants are going to match the pictures. The flavors are going to match the names. You know what I mean? Too many times when I first started, I bought packs, whatever you want to call it, blueberry, whatever. There was no blueberry. There was nothing. It was nothing like a blueberry.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, you'd have to do the hunt and the hunt and the hunt. And you might find it eventually and stuff. But
Yeah,
the mom had it, so you know everything else. Exactly.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So then are you doing F1s, F2s, F3? Talk to me about that.
So I do F1s,
And I think
but
that's great, right? Because it allows people to hunt themselves. It's just the
right.
expectation, right?
Well, but I don't stop there. Like if I really
Yeah.
like something, I'll take it further. Like my blueberry, I've been working on that one for going on 9 years now, since like the end of 2015 when I first started it. And I created that from scratch too. I didn't just take a blueberry. I made my own. You know what I mean? But anyway, like I was saying, if I really like something, I'll just keep working it like F4, F5 ish, and then I usually will like do some type of back crossing as well. My blueberry that I started in 2015, I took it up to an F4, but I didn't really like the F4. I think I made a bad selection, so I went back to the F3,
Yep.
remade the F4, and then it came out good. But then I back crossed it twice, but I did that using the F3. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah, so I mean, there's so many generations involved and so much work and time that took, but pretty much every seed you pop, you're gonna get blueberry terps.
Hell yeah,
So
man. All right. Well, look, Giant, it's been an absolutely fantastic time chatting with you today, man. I
appreciate it.
very interested in your gear there, dude. It sounds like you are absolutely putting in the work and finding the winners and whatnot. So, so last question before we kind of round out things. Any upcoming drops? Anything you want to talk about? Stuff that you're hyped on?
Yeah, so I've been working for like the last year or so. I've been hunting and hunting. My next drop is going to be a PB and Cray drop, an F2 plus a whole lineup surrounding that line. Without going too much into detail about it, the name of it is because the parents were Supreme Leader and Peanut Butter Breath, and the Supreme Leader I used in the logo was Kim Jong Un. So PB and Cray kind of thing. Yeah, a buddy of
I
mine named
love
it,
it.
but I thought it was awesome. So, yeah, that's Peanut Butter Breath crossed with Triangle Kush crossed with Alien OG, like the originals, the real deals. And yeah, I'm dropping the F2 version of that. Actually, I'm dropping two versions of the F2. One is just like the regular F2, and another one is the cherry F2, the cherry PB and Cray. What I was telling you, I
Right,
found the
right, right.
cherry. Um, and then I'm dropping like 7 or 8 new strains, using the PB and Cray male cross to like all of my mother cuts that I've built up over the like last decade. So
Nice, nice. Well,
yeah,
guys, Instagram for Joint down below. Go check them out. Punch up pictures on there. You can see. Love how your girls look, man. Super, super uniform. Real
thanks, man.
beautiful. This guy knows what he's doing. And maybe we'll have you back again down the road, chat some more. But certainly appreciate you stopping by today. And what a fantastic chat.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate being on. Thank you for having me.
All right, man. Joint. Huntsman. We out.